When I was younger, before I could even read on my own, one of my absolute favorite places to be was the library. Trust me, nothing brought young Sonia more joy than settling in, crisscross applesauce on the library floor, snack in hand, and ready to listen to a story. But last year, I came across something strange. I was flipping through a book on evolution when I saw an image that felt oddly familiar. A young Homo sapiens child from over 40,000 years ago, lounging by a fire and listening to a story. So I asked myself, what was the difference between me and this Paleolithic child? Well, as it turns out, embarrassingly little has changed. Our DNA is nearly identical. Our brains function in similar ways. But beyond that, we both share the same love for storytelling, a love that has shaped generations of people, young and old. From tales passed down by family members, well-worn books, or beloved films, stories can entertain, enthrall, and captivate us. But they also do so much more. Hi everyone, my name is Sania, and today I want to talk about storytelling. Not just as a form of entertainment, but as something that helps us solve mysteries and make sense of our lives. So join me as we dig deeper into the three lessons storytelling has to offer us. 1, how it can be used educationally. 2, how it shapes the values we live by. And 3, how we can use it to create a more compassionate, understanding world in the future. Let's start with number 1, education. But before looking at how storytelling can be used today, let's flip back to the first page to understand how it's essential for early humans to develop their ideas about the world. Storytelling is almost as old as humanity itself, and the very first documented stories we know of are myths that early humans used to explain events like natural phenomena. In ancient Norse culture, thunderstorms were explained as Thor striking his hammer. In Egyptian mythology, the deity Ra was responsible for raising the sun, whereas in Greek myths, floods were sent by the Greek god Zeus. The list goes on, demonstrating that before science or reason offered causes for natural events, early humans relied on stories to explain the things they didn't quite understand. Today, we no longer need stories to address the missing variables in our environments, but it's still a powerful tool for helping us understand new information. For example, a Harvard study found that information learned through stories is remembered far more accurately and for much longer than a fact or figure. This is because storytelling is a form of implicit learning, learning that happens unintentionally and naturally. Due to this, stories have numerous educational benefits, including better language learning. According to psychologist Dr. David Kilpatrick, as young children listen to stories, they improve their ability to form phonemes, the basic units of sound we use to speak. The more phonemes a young child can form, the broader their vocabulary and the more fluently they can communicate with others. So, while we no longer need stories to understand our vast physical worlds, storytelling is still the key to understanding both our spoken and literary worlds. But another type of story isn't just for education. It shapes our understanding of right and wrong, our adherence to social norms, and even our personalities. This second type of myth, called the social myth by scholars, brings me to lesson number 2. Stories can alter our behavior. For example, some social myths were written to teach children how to behave, such as Aesop's fables. Aesop wrote 725 short stories, including The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and each one involved a moral lesson. Other types of stories weren't just for children. They were used to understand the values the society operated on. Today, we use these stories from ancient cultures to learn more about them, one of the most quintessential examples being the Iliad. Among the most commonly studied works of literature today, the Iliad has provided us with a better understanding of ancient Greek civilization. A simple reading of the play can tell you about the society's political structure, the kind of heroes they cherished, and even their religious beliefs. And it's not limited to the Greeks. All cultures, modern or ancient, have their stories, things that we can use to better understand them. And today, the stories we hear continue to be responsible for shaping the decisions we make. Storytelling is formative in our cognitive processes, so much so that it even impacts our political outlook. Political scientists at the University of Toronto have established a relationship between childhood fairy tales and later political tendencies, including party affiliation and likelihood of voting. Now, I know it sounds hard to believe that a silly story can impact our political landscape, but historical evidence supports the theory, as literary movements have often catalyzed political change. For example, the realism movement of the 19th century prompted massive reforms in labor laws and education, as authors like Dickens or Tolstoy shed light on social issues. So, while literature tends to reflect the values of a society, it can also work the other way around. The popularity of literature can impact people's beliefs in a certain period of time. Now, the last lesson we can learn from storytelling has to do with unity. You see, since stories embody the traditions of the cultures they originate in, stories are a source of cultural connection. But what if we took it a step further? Could stories be a source of global connection? Anthropological finds tell us the answer is yes. As it turns out, shockingly similar stories have emerged in different cultures, often dating to before these civilizations made contact. Meaning, authors across the globe wrote about the exact same things. Take Cinderella. Over 500 variations of the popular tale exist worldwide, from Mexico to China, India to Iran. While each version is unique, they're shockingly similar, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. After all, the most common storytelling themes are love and loss, kindness and power, fairly universal ideas. So, regardless of where we come from, storytelling reminds us that we have more in common than not. Now that we know a little bit more about storytelling, how does all this matter to someone like you or me? Well, we can integrate this centuries-old tradition into our own lives to solve modern problems. For instance, storytelling could be used to address the declining literacy rate. Likely due to implicit learning, children who are read to as toddlers are far more likely to continue reading and can read at higher levels. Given that Canada has recently faced declining youth literacy rates, storytelling, whether in the classroom or just at home, could be an easy way to combat this. But the cognitive benefits of storytelling extend far beyond children. Storytelling aids in the formation and recollection of memories, and a University of Missouri study found that it could help dementia patients converse with loved ones and even slow the progression of the disease. According to researchers, stories access regions of the brain everyday conversation can't, allowing patients to recall and share their emotional memories. Alongside these cognitive benefits are the cultural ones, including addressing cultural disconnect. Many Canadian youth between 15 and 24 report experiencing cultural disconnect, a feeling of alienation from their heritage. Storytelling could serve as a remedy to this, and seeking out cultural tales could be pivotal for teenagers and young adults. Hearing these stories could help them forge their own identities, learn more about their culture's traditions, and even form connections with family or community members. And perhaps most importantly, storytelling can promote empathy or understanding between people. Because, you see, while storytelling certainly influences our opinions, it can also help us broaden these opinions to foster cross-cultural understanding. For example, the nonprofit organization StoryCorps was founded to visit libraries and share folktales from across the globe. Through their work, they found that children are more likely to empathize and compromise with others after listening to these stories. Social advocate Raj Jayadav applies this principle of storytelling-based empathy to the legal system. Jayadav uses stories as a legal strategy to help judges overcome their biases. He has families create biographies of defendants, and in his view, these stories challenge the often dehumanizing narrative presented in courtrooms. So clearly, the stories we choose to tell today have the potential to pave the way for a more empathetic tomorrow. Looking back at my love for storytelling circles, I think part of it was the chance to learn something new. Every silly story was an opportunity to sympathize with a character I didn't know yet, or learn about a concept I didn't quite understand. But that's just my experience. Everyone's bond with storytelling is a little bit different. But in the words of neuroscientist Emily Folk, our brains are wired to connect with others, and stories offer a deeply human way to accomplish that goal. Ultimately, all the impacts of storytelling revolve around this one key word: connection. Whether it's about connecting with people through literature, bridging social and cultural divides, or helping patients reconnect with loved ones, stories have the potential to create a more enriched, compassionate atmosphere for everyone. In today's digital age, as more and more people report struggling to form genuine connections, the variable we're trying to solve for could very well be storytelling. So as I leave you here today, I leave you with a challenge. Try to incorporate one or more of these lessons into your own lives, and it doesn't have to be somewhere big, like in the legal system. For my fellow students, it could look like using stories to help you study. Metaphors, analogies, even those silly mnemonic devices you come up with in bio class are all examples of using stories to improve your retention. And for anyone else, it could be as easy as visiting websites like StoryCorps to listen to or read about folk tales from across the globe. Or it could be even easier. Pick up a book you've been meaning to read for a while, or even ask a family or friend for one of their favorite suggestions. However you go about it, try and integrate storytelling into your own life, and you might just be surprised at how much a silly little story has to actually offer. Most importantly, let's keep telling stories so we can have our own happily ever afters. The end.